At this place in history, we're in Montpelier with Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society, Steve Perkins, on a beautiful fall day too, I might add.
It is gorgeous out here. I love it.
So what brings us out here?
We are going to be talking about statues on top of the Statehouse.
Oh, okay, statues, plural, more than one.
Absolutely. So there's one behind us right now.
Right.
But I think many Vermonters know that just went up last year. Brand spanking new. But not only is that the second statue, it's in fact the third statue. So there were two statues before that one.
Okay, so let's talk about number one then. When did it go up? How did it go up?
Statue number one, we're going to call that the Embodiment of Agriculture for a title, went up in 1859. A few years before that, the Statehouse burned. When they built this Statehouse we have behind us, they put that nice big dome on top. They felt that they needed something on that dome, some sort of statuary.
So how did they decide what that one statue was going to be? Why the embodiment of agriculture?
Well, you know, Vermont in the 1850s still was very much an agricultural state. A lot of sheep, a lot of wool production here, but agriculture was the driving force in Vermont at the time. Agriculture is what defined us.
Makes sense. So how did they find their artists then?
So they found this guy named Larkin Goldsmith Mead. Very young man, young artist, that just opened a studio in Brattleboro. He decided to do a stunt to get people to see him as this artist so they could start getting commissions. And he built a snow and ice sculpture on New Year's Eve in Brattleboro, and it was called the Recording Angel. It was a very, very cold winter, and so that statue lasted for a few weeks. People came from all over New England to see this statue that he built in the middle of the night with his buddies, and it made his name. And so these folks up here who were working on the Statehouse said, oh, let's check in with him. And so they hired him, and he ultimately designed it. But like a true 19th century style, he hired somebody else to actually execute it.
What was it made out of?
So it was made out of wood.
Okay.
Pine.
Yeah.
You know, large chunks of it glued together and carved up, and then it was covered with a coat of probably gesso and then a number of layers of white paint. So he created this great statue, you know, of what we now think of as a Roman goddess Ceres, holding a sheaf of wheat and a scroll and standing atop the Statehouse. And she stayed there for 80 years until it really started to rot in the 1930s.
Where is that statue now?
So the statue really disintegrated on its way down. We've got some good photographs of it coming down. There are a few remnants left. We have a piece of the hand, and that's going to be on display at the Vermont History Museum in a brand new exhibit on the statues of the Statehouse.
Awesome. Are there any other examples of Larkin Mead's work around that people can see?
In Vermont, there definitely are. So right behind us, you can see there's a statue of Ethan Allen right on the porch of the Statehouse. He was commissioned to do Abraham Lincoln's tomb. One of the studies for that tomb, a head and bust of Abraham Lincoln, is also on view in the Vermont Statehouse. He decorated a lot of architecture, so you can go to big buildings in New York and Washington and you look at those friezes and the entablature on the top of buildings. A lot of that is his work as well.
So going back to the statue on top of the Statehouse, you said that was number one. Where does number two come in?
So number one was falling apart, and number two was created by Dwight Dwinell, who was the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Statehouse. But you know what? That's another whole story, and I think we need to get into that next week.
At this place in history.